Rich Rodriguez might have got the secret sauce today from a championship coach in Urban Meyer. There's a lot to get to. Let's talk about this. No soft rookies in the locker room.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia. Let's talk a little football today as we are having a slow news cycle right now, but I am actually excited about some of the news that's come out the last few days. Richrod continues to make his rounds talking about West Virginia football, and if you look hard enough, every now and again, you'll get a gem or two. And without further ado, let's get to it, man, because there's really not else to do it but to get to it. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Game Time. That's right. You can use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase, but you got to download the Game Time app and create an account to get started. After that, it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, baby. Urban Meyer. His daughter actually helped me out one time. It's a true story. She has her own thing called GG Fitness, and I had messaged her about acquiring some things, because obviously I struggle with weight, and she just sent me some stuff for free. Really nice. They live in Florida. She has a husband out there, very pretty woman. Anyways, so I've kind of got a soft spot for her, for being such a nice person in that circumstance. Obviously, I didn't do too good of a job here, but just reminded me of her whenever I saw this today, because it's been years since that happened. So her dad, Urban Meyer, obviously, whatever you think about Urban Meyer, is an incredible coach. Whether you go back to Bowling Green, you can go to Utah, you can go to Ohio State, you can go to Florida. We didn't get to see what happened in Jacksonville, unfortunately. We all know why that happened, but he knows what he's talking about when it comes to college football, especially. And so today Richrod went on a podcast, and maybe yesterday to talk to this. He's making these rounds right now, and it's Urban Meyer. It's actually two really good in the history of college football, two really good guys, Mark Ingram and Urban Meyer, as far as on the field goes. It's really hard to beat what Mark Ingram did with his career. What a career he had at Alabama. Told a funny story on there about how Richrod recruited him, almost went to Michigan. That would have been interesting. Richrod said, I probably still had a job if you did him. But, so they were talking about different things, and then they let Richrod ask his own question, which I thought was interesting, which is a very kind of unique twist on an interview. Let them interview, then let Richrod ask all them a question. And so the question was, what's everybody doing that separates them from the pack? This is what Richrod asked Mark Ingram. He's asking Urban Meyer this. And Joel Klatt was there for decoration, because I'm sure he wasn't asking him necessarily. But so, because these guys are on the road every week, big new kickoff with the best teams, and they are witnessing what it looks like in the locker room from a culture standpoint, how these teams are built. They're studying the tape, so there's a lot to it, and there probably is a common denominator if you look hard enough. And a guy like Urban Meyer, who could get back into the game at any time, you just never know, is probably studying it as hard as anybody else. Now, this day and age, maybe he doesn't want back in the game. Certainly, he had a little bit of a tarnished resume, the way things ended in Jacksonville, but time heals all. If Richrod can come back, so can Urban Meyer, even though, some would say abusing your players is just what he's accused of. I'm not saying he did it. I think he was being really hardcore, for sure, and maybe crossed the line, but I wasn't there and I haven't read any reports. So, he and Richrod are kindred spirits. Did you know that he and Richrod, whenever Richrod invented this scheme, he and Richrod went back and forth and learned from each other for 10 straight seasons at one point in time. I found that to be fascinating piece of news. And here I've had several debates with people that say, no, I think Urban Meyer came up with the spread run game. I think, and then some people say, well, no, Gus Malzahn. And you hear people say, no, Dan Mullen actually was one of the early guys on that. And Richrod doesn't ever get enough credit on that. And for whatever reason, even though he's the inventor. And so, in my opinion, this interview will live forever. And Urban Meyer said it openly that he went and learned it from Richrod. So I think that closes the debate on who invented the spread. Gosh, maybe that would have been a better idea for the show. Doggone it. Maybe it would have been, because I could have made that a really good thumbnail. Okay, anyways, thinking in real time here. So the answer that he gave him was this, and this is kind of what I want to lean into for West Virginia. This is Urban Meyer, quote, I think it's a no-brainer. Former Ohio State coach, he really knows what it looks like I said, guys. He said, what I witnessed the Wolverines do and the Buckeyes do the last 2 years, you got grown-ass men in that locker room. My best teams when I had men, not boys in the locker room. You look at the Wolverines and Buckeyes, those kids all came back. It's not the 17, 18-year-olds. You got 21-year-old dudes that have been through the war. So I started reflecting and watching back my best teams, and they were the same way. I had these guys that didn't put up with any shit. The locker room was the locker room because they were grown men. I know Penn State's trying to do the same thing this year because a lot of those kids came back, and in the old days, they all left because they had to get paid. Now they're getting paid. So, he was just really honest right there about that. And in the old days, players left because they had to get paid. What an admission. Nobody hides from it anymore, right? But so here's what I thought about. How many guys on West Virginia's current roster, would be considered – sorry, I have a really bad itch going on here. How many guys would you consider to be dudes on this roster from an older senior standpoint? Do we have enough that could make that big impact like, a guy like Urban Meyer's saying? So I wanted to look at that. How is this roster constructed, right? And what have they done? Because Richrod said in the interview, everybody wants to focus on, is he a junior? Is he a senior? How much time has he got left? And he said, you know what? We're just getting the best damn player we can get. So that leads me to the seniors on this group and the juniors too, because, Nico Marchiol is an older junior. Jaheim White's been around for a little while. Rodney Gallagher feels like he's still young. So let's go through the list though. The seniors first. Jalen Henderson is a senior, obviously. Ty Edwards, Jalen Knighton, Justin Smith-Brown, Jaden Bray, Oron Singleton, Jeffrey Weimer, Preston Fox, Logan Ramper, Grayson Bards, Greg Genross, Jacob Barrick. Those are quite a few important pieces right off the rip. Now let's get to where it starts to matter in the trenches. Senior laden offensive line, Carson Lee, Walter Youngbear, Kimo Makaniole, Tykes Crawford, Michael Clay. Defensive end, Jamoy Robinson, Hammond Russell, Eddie Kelly, Eddie V, defensive tackle. What about linebacker / edge? Braden Siders, Chase Wilson, Devin Grant, Reed Carrico, John Lewis, Caden Beiser. What about nickel safety? Brad Perry, Jordan Walker, Kiki Tarnu, Justin Harrington, Will Davis, Darren Lewis. What about corner? Michael Coates Jr., Jordan Scruggs, Derek Carter, Devontae Golden-Nelson, Jason Chambers, and Ty Crutcher. Oliver Straw and Cade Hensley for the specialist. For a total of 41 seniors, guys, on this list. At the very least, you're going to have to go get 41 more guys next year. pretty crazy. Um, I guess the numbers won't play exactly like that because there'll be some high school guys coming in, but you're still having to replace 41 seniors unless some of these guys have an extra year or whatnot. So let's go to break and let's break this down a little bit further because, in my opinion, I think there's a lot, when you look at how they've constructed this roster, there's a lot of guys on this roster that are older, and it's got to be by design. We'll be right back. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Game Time. Guys, we love talking about Game Time around here because they are doing it big. And right now, when you look at Game Time, the one thing they are doing is not playing around, especially with the NBA playoffs. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's kind of the atmosphere that you must experience live, man. And this year's matchups are delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats. If you didn't know, even for the biggest playoff games, prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, contrary to popular belief. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, no surprise fees at checkout, Game Time is a total game changer. I do love that I can see my exact view before I buy with no surprises. That's a big deal. Want to see if my seats are good. And look, the NFL schedule just dropped as well. So you better believe I'm already looking for a fall calendar. I'm looking at games. Which ones can I hit? I'm looking at college football games on there. And you're going to find great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The terms are going to apply here, but if you create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off and download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed, and ask yourself the questions. What time is it? It's game time. All right, segment 2, we crack a do as we continue to watch and learn from what these coaches have done this offseason, because I think it's a little bit slick. I wasn't expecting to have quite as many seniors on this list. And so let's go to the juniors, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to name on the juniors and seniors who I think is actually going to make a big impact, because it's not going to be everybody. Obviously, all 41 seniors aren't going to start. All 41 probably aren't even going to play. That's a reality. Maybe some guys will be in the 2 deep. Maybe some guys will be in the 3 deep. Some guys are going to get injured as well, but you can't tell that. So, let's get to it. Who is going to make the biggest impacts? The first one on the list is Jalen Henderson. You guys know how I feel about Jalen Henderson. I think he's absolutely qualified to win the starting job. I also understand that Nico can win the job too, and I think it's a close race between them. I do. Obviously, I have an affinity towards Jalen because he let me interview him. I got to meet his family and all that. But at the same time, I love West Virginia, and I want West Virginia to win, and I want the best quarterback to play, regardless of how I feel personally about people. That said, Jalen Henderson's a dude, and I think he's got an absolute shot to make a big impact. He wouldn't have come here as a senior if he didn't think he had a great shot. In the running backs room, I think both Ty Edwards and Jalen Knighton are both going to make impacts. How big is on them? It could be from – I think both these guys have all Big 12 potential if they get the best out of them. But Jalen Knighton's got to overcome an injury. Ty Edwards has to overcome a big jump up from Northern Iowa. But the talent is there. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Jaheim Smith. I'm reading the next name, so I got the Jaheim White. Obviously, going to have a lot to say about that. Wide receivers: Justin Smith-Brown, Jaden Bray, Oron Singleton, Jeff Weimer, Preston Fox, and Logan Ramper. I think every single one of those guys are going to have an impact. Especially Jaden Bray. It's really hard to pick. You guys know I love Oron Singleton. Jeff Weimer's got great route running and tape, but I think all these dudes are going to make impacts, no doubt about it. You start to look at, Cam Bond's the number one receiver in the room. Number two behind him, I'll give it to Jaden Bray for now. That's just my personal opinion based off what I've heard in camp. Then I think we need some guy, and then probably Rodney's number three. But after that, we need some guys to kind of come on and develop. Because there's, and I think that and I'm not talking about by position here. Obviously, Rodney's is probably the starter in the slot right now, but I'm just talking about your number one, number two, number three, kind of like that. I could see any number of guys. I could see Ramper turning into a stud. I could see Weimer turning into a stud. I could see Singleton turning into a stud. Like, they really got on some good receivers. Christian Hamilton's a wild card, obviously. And then don't get me started on the freshman Armani Weaver, who I just love his tape. Cyrus Charles, a route runner. Jordan McCants has got a ton of speed and skill. Gerald Williams has been here forever. He seems like he should be a senior. Gerard Bowie has a ton of talent, they say. I think his wide receiver room could definitely be good. We'll see what happens there. At tight end, I think all three seniors are going to make an impact. Grayson Parnes, Greg Genross, and Jacob Barrick are all going to play. Now, I don't know how big of an impact you're talking here, but Genross has got a lot of talent. Jacob Barrick is he had a really good year last year for them at Jack State. And Grayson Barnes, I think, was brought in to be the primary catching tight end. Offensive line is going to be difficult because you got Carson Lee, Walter Youngbear, Kimo Makaniole, Tykes Crawford, and Michael Clay. Again, I don't know. I think any combination of these guys could make a big impact, or they could be benched. And I don't know who is who at this point. I think we heard a lot about Kimo Makaniole over the spring. We'll see if he continues that momentum. Walter Youngbear's got over 1,000 snaps in his career, and so does Carson Lee. So you would expect those guys to be in the running for sure. Tykes Crawford is a mountain, a refrigerator, has all the physical tools to be really good, just like Michael Clay. But there's other guys in that room, so there's a lot to parse through there because Xavier Bosley's Landing Livingston's going to make an impact, no doubt. There's a lot there, guys, as far as just the seniors and some of the juniors. Defensive end, Jamoy Robinson is probably the number one impact player on the team, right? Hammond Russell's right there with him, and Eddie Kelly from Missouri, we love him as well. Big impact out of that room. And this is just the seniors, by the way. Eddie V is going to be a huge impact starter, we know. And then you get to the edge players. This is interesting on here because some of these are just linebackers. But, I think number one on this entire list for me is Chase Wilson. I think he's going to be the number one linebacker on the team, whether it's in the middle or outside, probably going to be outside. And then you go look at guys like Reed Carrico and others for that next linebacker. And it'll be fun to watch them fight it out. Braden Siders on the edge with Devin Grant and I think Curtis Jones, but he's not a senior. So at nickel, this is the craziest room we got for sure in safety. This is safety / nickel room. Fred Perry, Jordan Walker, Kiki Tarno, Justin Harrington, Will Davis, and Darren Lewis. Literally every single one of those guys. We play a 3-3-5, remember, so 3 safeties. So, I'd say all these guys are going to play a lot and have big impacts. All seniors at that. So you think about that. We got no juniors in that room. But so those guys are all brought in to start and play, in my opinion, or rotate, second string. So that's pretty easy. I think, beyond that, though, Zay Jennings, I think, is already a grown man at his age. So what about the corners? This is a fun room as well. Michael Coates, Jordan Scruggs, Derek Carter, Devontae Golden Nelson, Jason Chambers, and Ty Crutcher. Out of this room, you got to go Coates, obviously. And then probably as far as dudes, I don't know. It's tough. I think Derek Carter's got a chance, absolutely to be. Jordan Scruggs is going to be. It's going to be fun to see what happens there. Ollie Straw is a dude, a kicker slash long slash punter. I absolutely love him, and McGuire Moss is a junior, but I like him too. So there's a lot going on here, guys. I think that 41 seniors, and you just see me name them. Every senior they brought in, I believe, at the time that they signed them, they brought them in to either start or compete for a starting job. Because you look up and down this list. Let's just do it one more quick time. Actually, let's go to break. We'll come right back and we'll put a bow on this episode, guys. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by none other than Wayfair. When we talk about Wayfair, we have to mention that the days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside. Well, that means it's perfect time to refresh your outdoor space, whether you're working on a big backyard, a small balcony, or nothing like me. Wayfair has you everything you need to make it feel more like you. I do have a porch. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal setup, from a comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor. They've got it all, and at the prices that fit your budget. Grab a new patio dining set and some string lights from Wayfair to help extend your outdoor space. Pretty fun to do there. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo, just shop Wayfair, man. It's going to help you unwind. And check this out. There's a huge selection of outdoor furniture. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. And head to Wayfair today. Do it now. Do it today. Wayfair. Every style, every home. All right, guys. As we run into segment 3 here, hair on fire. I got a Walmart trip ahead of me. It's exciting. It's an exciting Friday evening for me because I'm going to go to Wally World and do stuff and do things. I might even get cash back. I know. It's crazy. I'm crazy, but I might. If I'm feeling nuts, I might do that. Obviously. So, let's talk a little bit about, I guess I didn't, it's so annoying to me is this is the background I meant to have up the entire time. And of course, for whatever reason, if I back out to do something, it reverts back to the old one that I had before. It's so annoying. I wish I'd have paid attention and done that earlier. But so obviously, who are the badasses? That was what I was talking about in the first segment. Any shockers is where I'm at now, and mix that with final thoughts because, sure, is it great to have seniors and juniors that are big impact players? Absolutely. But don't you have to have some shockers to be next level good? So who would be candidates on this team to be like a shocker? Now, I'm talking shocker, like, oh, I didn't see him coming at all. That could be a dude or a badass that would be good in the locker room and help with that culture. Well, I have some candidates. First of all, Nico Marchiol wouldn't be a shocker, but he deserves to be on the dudes list. I have to say, from earlier, even though he's a junior, and I was doing juniors and seniors, but I only got through the seniors. So there's a couple on here that I think have a chance. And so let's kind of go through it position by position. Let's do one for each position. Obviously, Max Brown is going to be the one for quarterbacks. You look at his tape, especially at Charlotte, and it's ridiculous, some of the stuff he's able to do with the football. As a matter of fact, let me just see if I can find something for you guys really quick, because he is very talented from a arm talent perspective. And I want to see if I can Okay, so there he is. Cool. Found his page. Now let me see if I can get to this. Yeah. Okay. So let me share screen with you guys really quick. Oh, and show you this. I think I've shown it once before, but let's show it one more time. This is Max Brown throwing the ball around just for fun. And, he has got some ridiculous arms talent just from throwing the ball perspective. Now, obviously, decision making and all these things come into play, but he's a great, not a great, but a very good athlete. And man, does he have a live arm and he throw it from any angle. Look at some of these throws from our quarterback train. Yeah, Spencer Rattler made this. Spencer Rattler made this popular, and it really got him a lot of attention. And this is very similar to what Spencer Rattler's looked like. So you jump in the air and then you throw it, which is pretty interesting. Kind of like back in the day, Fran Tarkenton style. But, look at that spiral fading back. Really pretty. And look at that throw. I mean, that is not something just anybody can do. Rolling left, throwing with his right, and look at the arm angle of release and the way that thing flies out of his hand. It's very impressive. Very pretty. There he is again, moving backwards, throwing off platform. Like, these are very pretty throws. And a lot of velocity on that. There he goes again.
Right, left.
He's got a whip for an arm, for sure. And I believe he is one of the, if not the biggest reasons. This is just a sneaking suspicion that I have. I think Max Brown could be one of the reasons, like, because if we only had two quarterbacks, I think we go out and get another one at some point. But the fact that they didn't go out and get anybody lets me know, like, oh, okay. I'm on the wrong thing here. They didn't go out and get somebody for a reason, guys, to back up Nico and Jalen. So Max Brown is a guy that, if you want to talk about shockers, he could be one. Cannon Katzer, obviously, in the running back room, is 1,000% would be the shocker in the running back room. I think he's got a lot of talent. You guys know that. There's at least three guys ahead of him right now that conventional wisdom would say, but I do think there's a path for him. He's got talent. He can hit 22 miles an hour on the gun. So there's a lot to like about him. Wide receivers wise, I think if you're talking shockers, this is a fun one to kind of play around with because there's a few guys. But I think if you want to talk shocker, like this guy came out of nowhere, probably would be for me. This is tough, but I'll go with Gerald Williams because he's been here for so long. Coming out of Saraland, I don't know, like it burns into my brain. Saraland, Alabama, I'll never forget it. And his high school tape was really good. I thought he was going to be good right away. I think he came in the same time as our receiver that just transferred to Ole Miss. Sorry, his name slipped my mind for some reason just now. But so I think Gerald Williams will be my pick. Tight end wise, I don't know. Like, I guess maybe Noah Braham would be the guy if you're going to talk about a breakout shocker. But I wouldn't select anybody in that room personally if you're giving me a choice. Offensive line. This is a fun one. You guys know I love O-line anyways. So here's the thing. I really do think, and I believe I've got personal tape that I was given from Aiden Bussell that would rock your socks off from Tennessee. In practice against 5-star guys, he absolutely dominated. And I'm not even exaggerating here. So if I'm ever allowed to release this, I will, because he is really, really good. And I don't know if he'll start this year or not. I think he's got a great shot to. and he's got, he was running with the twos at Tennessee. So I do think that, and he's only a sophomore. Um, so, he's got a lot of talent left. And Aiden Bustle is a guy that, if you don't know, he came from the SEC, guys. So is it a huge shocker? I don't know. But I think he's got a great shot to win a starting job this year. And would be a shocker for a lot of people, though. But I think he's a dude. You guys see me interview him. And I know people are going to say that I'm like being biased here, but I got to meet him. I got to vet him. I got to watch tape nobody else has seen of him, because some schools have weird policy about what you can release publicly because of they don't want their plays to get out there. So that's why. But outside of him, I would go with it's tough, really. I guess shockers. I think Robbie Martin qualifies because he's so young, and most people aren't expecting him to play his first year. He's obviously got the talent, right? We know that. But like, I don't know if he's ready right away. We'll find out. Maybe he comes in as Zach Frazier. I don't know, but I doubt it. So I think Robbie Martin's a good choice because he's got that talent. We know he does, but if nobody's expecting him to play well yet, it's like next year we're expecting it. So Robbie Martin will be my choice there. Defensive end, obviously, you got a long road to hoe if you're going to play in the defensive end room at West Virginia this year. You've got literally four guys that I think are really good. Asani Redwood, Adam Tomczyk, Jamoy Robinson, Eddie Kelly are all really good players, but good to really good. Obviously, there's a scale on that. Obviously, Jamoy Robinson, and then probably Eddie Kelly, and then the rest of the guys maybe a step below that. But if you're going to give me a shot at one guy that could break out and be like, holy cow, where did he come from? I don't know. I guess probably in this case, I would go with Wilnerson Telemack, the freshman defensive end that picked us over Wisconsin. I like his tape a lot, and I think he can make a huge impact. Now, is he going to beat out Eddie Kelly or Jamoy Robinson? Well, if he does, he's an NFL player already. So that'll be a fun one. Defensive tackle, I think it's pretty simple on this one. I think Nate Gabriel's got a shot, building off of what he was last year as a freshman, to be not just good, but really, 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 really good. Like, he's got some really splash plays from last year at the defensive tackle spot, nose tackle, whatever you want to call it, that were really, really encouraging. And Corey McIntyre would not be a shock to me based on everything we know about him. So I didn't pick him for obvious reasons, because everybody would pick him that knows anything about the program. Corey McIntyre, obviously, if he puts it all together, he's the guy there. Eddie V is gone. He's going to beat out Eddie V or anybody, in my opinion, based on talent and what we've heard about him now. And obviously I've asked so many players about him that have played on our offensive line, and everybody said he's a nightmare to try to block. So that's why I come to that conclusion about McIntyre. But Nate Gabriel is also a big boy and can play. Elijah Simmons, the JUCO transfer was brought into play. So I don't consider him to be a shocker. Linebacker is a fun one for me because I got my guy. And, first of all, this is linebacker / edge, so I had to pick two. So I'm going to pick two. Linebacker is simple. Ashton Woods, the North Carolina transfer. I don't think many people expect him to play or start right away, but I think there's a world where he gets acclimated in 5 or 6 games and then becomes one of the starters in that room, absolutely, alongside Chase Wilson and Ben Bogle. So, I really like that kid a lot, and his tape is fun. And, he had a pick 6 in the spring. I watched it. Like, he can move. 6'3", 225. He's got the size to be whatever you want him to be. Now, I got to give a caveat to this because Cam Torber, the linebacker out of Hoover High School, is an absolute disgusting linebacker. I love him, guys. His high school tape it's among the top 3 or 4 that I watched this past season for us. And yeah, if you haven't seen Cam Torber yet, maybe I'll do something on our freshman here this week because Cam Torber's tape is so fun to watch. He can run sideline to sideline. He's a 4.5 ish guy, from what his coach told me. And he played at Hoover, which is obviously a very famous school in Alabama, and was very good there. He had a lot of players go a little bit higher level than him as far as like SEC and stuff on his team, but he was overlooked on that team. And at linebacker, he was very good from the edge. I think probably Keenan Eck or Marshawn Oxley, one of the 2 JUCO transfers, have a chance to come in and be dudes. And we just have to see if that's going to transfer. Safety and nickel is another interesting one because obviously the 5 seniors that I've mentioned, 6 seniors, you got Fred Perry, Jordan Walker, Kiki Tarnu, Justin Harrington, William Davis, Darren Lewis. I think all those guys are going to play. So, if you want to talk about a guy that could come out of nowhere, and to the casual fan, shock everybody, it's an easy one. Zay Jennings, number 17 is coming for your ass. And if you look at him on kick and punt return last year, he played like a man possessed. I hope he can learn the playbook fast enough to get on the field because I think he's one of the most talented players in our entire roster. And I don't think the casual fan knows about him. We do, but the casual fan would be shocked to even know who he was. I guess these days they don't know who anybody is. At corner, it's another interesting one because I didn't pick the safety on this list. Caleb Gray, I guess, would be the other one because we just got him. He's got a ton of talent. He's JUCO though, so it's like, what's he going to be? And he was really overlooked, so he would be a big shocker. Corner, I think Carmeris Bomar, obviously, he's got a shot to make a big impact. The freshman, high school recruit. Him and Weaver both went to the same high school there in South Carolina. They both have insane speed. So it would be really fun to see those guys both make an impact. But Bomar, I think, could make an impact at corner, and it would be a big shocker to a lot of people because he's so young. And I don't know if this, how this staff plays freshmen or not yet. Kicker and long snapper specialists and all that, I'm going to hold off on, I guess, because there's really nobody. There's just everybody there that's probably going to play some. So obviously Xavier Bosley. I left. Here's the thing. Xavier Bosley is one of my very favorite people on the entire team. A lot of you guys know that. I'm a big fan of his. I believed in him for years. I was fortunate enough, and I know I've said this a bunch, but if I look at my YouTube analytics, it tells me that only 60% of you guys come back to watch every episode. And so I've got like 40% new almost in every episode. So, Xavier Bosley literally let me break the news about his transfer from Jackson State to West Virginia, which at the time was huge news because he was a freshman All-American, and all that. And he did that for me. He didn't even want to announce it. He was letting me do it, basically. We've been talking for months, and got close. Or at least by my definition, I mean, we talked a lot online. It wasn't like we were best friends, but like we had, I felt like he wanted to see me do well, and I want him to do well. And so there's like a personal aspect of this to me because he gave me my first real scoop. Nobody knew he was actually going to make that. Most people actually thought he was going to Kentucky. Kentucky offered him more money. I know that for a fact. So he turned that down to stay home in West Virginia. So, and Xavier Bosley, to me, wouldn't be a shocker if he won the job. I think a lot of people were making a lot of assumptions because how the offseason went with them bringing in a bunch of offensive linemen. And I understand that. It worries me too. We didn't hear a lot about Bosley in the spring. Totally wasn't expecting that going into the year. I had him penciled in at right tackle, and I guess my confidence is shaken a little bit, only because, and I don't know what he's going through, and I've been open and honest about this, and maybe this is why. But I don't know how else to be. It's just who I am. We haven't spoken much, and I don't think it's not like he hates me or anything, but I think, because I'm such a public person, maybe he just wants to stay to himself. And I've heard through the grapevine, maybe he was a little banged up during the spring. So I think there's that aspect of it too, where he's just like dead focused on what he's got to do. So, and I don't want to bother him. I haven't texted him in months. I don't want to bother him and all that. So I say all that to say is Xavier Bosley was a freshman All-American in this system. And if there's any one guy on this roster that could turn into a dude and be a all Big 12 player, it's him. And I don't doubt about that for 1 second. So, if I don't mention Bosley, it's not because I don't believe in him. It's because I'm trying not to as much because maybe he doesn't want me to do that. I don't know. I can't really trying to read between the lines, but at the end of the day, I am in the media, quote unquote, and I have a job to do at times. So I have to speak on these players, and that's what it is. All right, guys, I appreciate you for joining in. Thank you for everything you guys do for me. It's really amazing. You guys truly are the best. I think there's a lot going on right now that is out of our control in the world. And this one thing here, we can come in here and have a little bit of control about the narratives we talk about. Certainly I would always, I would love for you guys to give me some suggestions down in the comments, what you want to talk about. Is it the baseball team? Because I know they won the Big 12 and some people were upset with me for not talking about it. But like I was honest the other day, I don't know enough to be able to get on here and talk publicly about it with confidence. And I love baseball, watched it for years, but I can talk about it technically and all that. But this specific team, unfortunately, because of the way the portal was, and this being my job, I spent so many 14 hours a day trying to keep track, they were at one point in time, we had lists of 20 players being offered from West Virginia. And I'm individually having to go through and reach out to these guys, try to get an idea of what's happening. It was so much. And unfortunately the baseball suffered for that. So I wouldn't ever want that to happen. And I feel really like I missed out on something special. So it won't happen again. I'm just not going to miss any more baseball. So, from here on, I'm going to get to know them a little better because I'm not a bandwagon in any way, but I've watched in the last few years and with Weatherholt and all that, and I loved it. So I'm going to continue to do that. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. I got some things to do, but make sure you like the video before you leave. Subscribe if you're new around here, if you like what you see, and share the video out, guys. Sorry we don't have more to talk about. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. And have a great weekend. It's Friday. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to have a great weekend with family and friends. Hopefully you do. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep me in your prayers if you can. I'm struggling with panic disorder. It's something I've had for a long time. Just before we go off here, I'll tell you guys, I've had several severe panic attacks here in the last couple of days. And unfortunately, they mimic heart attacks. So, I've had a lot of emotional come out of me, and I've done everything you can think of for it. Medicine. I've tried different meditations. It's just unfortunately with panic disorder, it just hits you out of nowhere, like you've just gotten hit full of adrenaline, and it's like you can't breathe. The whole nine. So I have what they consider like the most extreme version of it. My blood pressure will get up over 200. Like it's insane. So maybe this is due to the life I've lived. For a lot of you guys that don't know, I come through a rough pass. So, I think at the end of the day, I have to accept why I'm experiencing some of this stuff and pray that it gets better. So hopefully you can do that for me, guys. All right. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.